Interesting thing that's emerged, a new NVIDIA Game Ready driver version 560.81 includes settings profiles for a few games, and it also includes a profile for Final Fantasy 16 and a Final Fantasy 16 demo. And those profiles are in there, but they're not mentioned in the official driver release notes, probably because, we've got no actual official news yet that Final Fantasy 16 is happening anytime soon for PC. We suspect it will do, of course, but it looks as though this might be happening sooner than we think, particularly as there's news that the game's producer, Naoki Yoshida, is set to attend Gamescom. So we can wind him up and let him go, but Oliver, you can talk about Final Fantasy 16 all day, right?
I could. I'm really interested to see how this turns out, because Square Enix has an interesting history with these Final Fantasy games on PC. Final Fantasy VII Remake was not so good on PC. I took a look at that one back in the day. Final Fantasy 15, though, did have a pretty interesting PC port with lots of stuff in there. I think there was various NVIDIA features in there, including DLSS 1.0. If you can believe that. I think it might have been the first game with 1.0 in there. Very impressive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm hoping they will put a lot of time into the game's PC version, that it will be a high-quality port. Obviously, the fact they didn't launch day and date, indeed they're launching over a year after the original game's release. Hopefully that indicates that it will be a high-quality port. I think that there maybe could be one or two new visual features in here. I don't think it'd be super likely, but the only thing that really bothers me in Final Fantasy 16 is the SSR, in terms of just things that could be cleaned up. Obviously, it'd be great to see ray traced reflections. I think that's probably hoping a little bit too much, but I think just running this game at high resolutions at 60 FPS could be really good. Higher frame rates than that, obviously, as well. Final Fantasy 16 had some really excellent looking environments, great big lighting, a novel and very impressive shadow solution. Super fun, super dynamic combat sequences with really great animation. It's not just like those older Final Fantasy games where you'd see great action in the CGI cutscenes. Here it's in gameplay and these interactive sequences, which is really quite fun. There is some inconsistency to it with the cutscenes, and some areas not getting quite the same level of polish. But overall, I think it's a really satisfying looking game and one of my favorite looking games this gen. So on PC, I think they could really stretch it in terms of image quality. They could stretch it in terms of performance. I don't really think it needs that much in terms of visual features. I think we could probably bump up all the usual settings we tend to see bumped up on PC. But as long as it's in that form and running pretty well on PC, I think that might be a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alex, what do you make of this? I mean, from my perspective, the performance mode that was there on the PlayStation 5 wasn't particularly impressive. So this is kind of the obvious improvement. But where do you go beyond that?
Not having, I would like to see DLSS and FSR to 3.1 in there. I would also like to see frame gen in there, because I think the original game was TAA plus which really looked like FSR 1.0 with dynamic res scaling. I'd be curious if they keep the dynamic resolution scaling in the PC version. Square Enix can surprise with regards to these kind of things. And I especially think, and I hope, that since this is not an Unreal Engine game like a remake is, that it doesn't suffer from Unreal Engine issues. I don't think it will, but I hope that there is good shader compilation done that doesn't miss anything, as well as just moving across the terrain in the game. It is more a linear fare here, but still that doesn't prevent a game from having these issues, as we've seen so many times over now. So I'm hoping that those things are cleaned up. I also hope, like Oliver, that they team up maybe like they did last time around with their last non-Unreal Engine release on PC, like they did for Final Fantasy 15, where it's an NVIDIA link up there. I think they've shown that it isn't called Crystal Tools. What is the name of this engine?
It's the Final Fantasy 14 engine massively retooled, isn't it?
I think it is split off from Crystal Tools.
Okay,
but it's
they've shown in the background that they can do a lot here beyond what they always ship with, and that's the thing I would like to see on some level. I think ray traced reflections is a great way to go there to clean up the issues with water in the game primarily. I think that'd be a great way. I think shadows already look good. the game doesn't have moving time of day, so it doesn't really need much there in terms of lighting other than to make dynamic objects look better, but that is neither here nor there. I think really that would be a great way to spice it up. And yeah, that's it. Also a good settings menu, which we have yet to see Square do in a while. So yeah, once again, I'd just like to see those things.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Final Fantasy 15, they did kind of cram in the NVIDIA technologies to the point where it was sort of stuff that you shouldn't have got in there, really. I mean, hair works, not great. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
But, you know, NVIDIA's kind of pulled back from doing this kind of sort of stuff that doesn't really land particularly well. They're focusing mostly on the machine learning stuff now, which is probably the way forward.
Or RT.
And and other stuff that they're doing, they tend to be open sourcing, I think. Certainly on their ray-tracing research. So hopefully it will just be good stuff, assuming it is an NVIDIA tie-in. I mean, literally the only evidence we've got is this profile within a driver, which doesn't really tell us anything except it's possibly coming soon.
Right. Yeah, I also think, like, if you look at the PlayStation 5 code, not to pick on it, but even at 30 FPS, it doesn't have the best image quality. Like, it's a dynamic 1440p there. They have TA that's not doing a great job with foliage, not doing a great job with, like, hair and fur rendering, not doing a great job with foreground elements and shots with lots of depth of field. There's some obvious issues there. That could certainly be improved with DLSS or XeSS, say. Also, some of the overview shots of certain locations and cutscenes I noticed, like towns, don't have any AA treatment at all for some reason.
That's true. I forgot that. Wow.
Yeah, PC might be able to fix some of that stuff. And it's especially important because in Final Fantasy 16, there's a huge volume of real-time cinematic content, and there's virtually no CG. Like, there are a handful of sequences that are pre-rendered that appear to be made using game assets in the game engine. So this is a game that does depend on those sequences. And when you do notice these little problems in the anti-aliasing there, it's not like the end of the world, but certainly it would be nice to see those cleaned up and properly pristine and properly presented with the kind of image quality you'd expect from CG, because in a lot of other respects, it is coming close to some of those early high watermarks in Final Fantasy media-related CG. Mm-hmm. So seeing that image quality cleaned up perfectly would be a fantastic thing to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see something soon, but a demo is certainly very welcome as well, because we don't actually see them that much anymore.
Right.
You know, that'd be great.